Working with layer styles is quite straightforward and easy, but there can be a couple of very tricky questions about it in the exam. So I would like to show you all of these in this video. First of all, if you double click on the layer here in the layers panel, you get the layer style dialog box. And here you can add styles like the drop shadow. But whenever you click on the image while having selected an effect in the layer style dialog box, you can actually reposition the effect itself. So you are changing the angle and the distance together with this quick feature. It applies to most of the effects here in the layer style dialog box. If you already created an effect and you have another layer, let's just say I have another text here, another layer, and I'm just going to make this layer bigger. So I would like to assign the same drop shadow on this. I can alt click and drag the effects icon from the previous layer and drag it onto this new layer. So that way I can have the same effect on both of them. And by default there is an option called global light, which is another very useful option. And I can go into drop shadow and I can see that that's the global light. So if I change the angle around, it will be consistent throughout the whole document, wherever the use global light is turned on. So as you can see, it will adjust both of the drop shadows on both of the layers. And in case it's turned off and you move a layer to another document, your effect's appearance might change. So it's also important to keep it on if you are moving layers from document to document. There's another very important thing in the layer style dialog box under the blending options, and that's called the knockout. It's under the advanced blending. Now, to be honest, I almost never use this feature, but they always ask about it in the exam. So I want to make sure you understand how it works and you will remember it. So to be able to use it, first of all, I'm going to set up a little bit my layers. I'm going to have another image in this document. Let me just drag and drop this one. And I'm going to make it bigger so it fills in the whole image. And I put it here in the middle. So I have background layer, I have the image, and I have the logo on top. If I double click on the logo and turn the knockout to deep, for example, and reduce the fill opacity to 0%, then I will be able to see through the image. So I can actually see the white color of the background. The deep knockout setting will go through layer groups as well. So for example, if I put this into a layer group like this, then it will still work. But if I change the knockout to shallow, then it will only reach the bottom of this group, but it won't be able to exit the group itself. Now let me show you another feature, which is called blend if. I'm going to take off this knockout option, so I set it back to none, and I'm going to set the fill opacity back to 100%. So now if I again double click on this layer, I can show you also in the blending options the blend if area. Here I can change this layer option and the underlying layer option as well, and these options are almost similar to masking. And what you can do is to show or hide the details of the actual layers. So if I turn off the image in the background, then maybe you will be able to see it better. So I can blend this layer using only the dark details. So the I'm a designer part will disappear first, and then the yes word as well. I can start from the other side, and then the yes word will disappear first, and then the I'm a designer can stay there separately. But what if I have a layer where it's like an image, like this one, and I use the same option, so blend if, we can see once again the dark details will disappear first, or if I drag the other side, then the bright details will disappear. And if I want to, I can alt click on any of these sliders to split them and then creating a tolerance. So for example, for the white details, I can split it up and then I will have a much more softer edge on the blended areas. In the exam, you might also get a question about the contour options. And remember, you can find that under the quality options for each of these styles. And you can edit the contour option by clicking on it, and you can choose any of these preset options as well, but in the mapping you can customize the contour yourself. The contour option is available for drop shadow, inner glow, outer glow, bevel and emboss, and satin. And last but not least, there's another option also in the blending options area. Here we have an option called layer mask hides effects. So what if I have this image a little bit smaller and we can see the drop shadow around it? If I add a mask on this layer and I use my brush and I draw into it, we can see that the layer style will follow the changes of the mask. But if I double click on the layer and go back into the settings and turn on layer mask hides effects, then the mask will not only hide the image, but it will also hide the effects. And it can be also applied for vector masks, so they can also hide effects if we want that. So these are the options that usually can come up in the exam about layer styles. So it's not only about knowing the simple things like how to apply a drop shadow, but also knowing these less known features of Photoshop. That's why it's called an expert exam. And if you feel like you are ready to take the test of this topic, then you can find it here at the end of this section. And once you are ready with that, you can continue with the next topic called adjusting images.